Well, hi, Alexis. Hey, I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us on a Friday. It's almost Labor Day. Welcome to the InnSync show. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Yeah, hi Cory. My name is Alexis Scott. I currently live in Boise, Idaho, born and raised in California. Made it here about 4 years ago. Yeah, so right now I am working on getting a job, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I am in the process of making a career pivot. I don't want to call it lifelong because my life is still continuing, but primarily my background has been in sales for many, many years, in hospitality sales and technology sales, which is why we're talking actually.
yeah, absolutely.
But I decided that I don't want to actively sell. Like sales is ingrained in my personality, I feel. And I'm sure that whatever I do next will have a component of sales, but I'm really looking to do something different. And so just kind of working through that, meeting a lot of people, learning about a lot of companies and opportunities. There are so many jobs that I now know that I never knew existed. I think a lot of people have no idea they exist because people tend to think in lanes and boxes and constraints. And the reality is that the business playing field is really wide, and there are a lot of opportunities that you really won't know about unless you have conversations with people. So that's what I'm doing, having lots of conversations, learning as much as possible, and just trying to figure out where I'm going to land next.
Okay, wonderful, fantastic. Hey, actually, how I found out about you was your LinkedIn, because I'm a neurotic. I loiter on LinkedIn a lot. And I was very impressed on the you had a LinkedIn post regarding you being a strong candidate, and then I did a little bit more research, found out you got a really strong following. I checked out some more of your posts. You have a really strong writing background, and I can tell that people love connecting with you. And so I looked at your profile, did a little bit more research, and found out you had strong hospitality, and then you got out of the market and were in sales in other industries. And I'm like, this is perfect. So I thought this would be a perfect topic to talk about what hotel sales could learn from other industries. So why should anybody care about what others are doing in other industries? Could you share a little bit about that with us?
Oh my gosh, I believe there's always something to be learned. And me personally, I'm consistently wanting to grow and be better and be more successful. It's inherent. It's just part of who I am as a person. And I think that in my experience, hotel sales is like the grandpa of the sales world. Very much what we have always done, very low on the innovation. And you don't realize that until you leave and start selling in a different industry. And for me, it was technology sales. I am fully immersed in SaaS sales, which is software as a service. The company that I worked for previously actually trained people in software sales. So it wasn't just an issue of selling myself. It was actually digging deep into what that means and really the methodology. Obviously, there are many, but their particular methodology that is pretty widespread among software salespeople. And, I think back into my hotel sales career, and even before this call, I was just kind of reminiscing and thinking, I only ever in, 15 years, had one formal hospitality sales training. One.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I've worked for major brands, multiple major brands. I worked for boutique hotels. I worked for golf courses. One.
Interesting. Wow. Jeez. So what would it, now you being transitioning from hospitality into SaaS, and I always use that, especially here with our clients at Lure, because we work with other industries as well. And I admittedly have never worked at a hotel, so I don't have quite the insight that you do.
Yep.
But the differences are so stark. And so could you tell us the biggest difference between hotel sales and, say, software sales?
Yeah, in my experience, hotel sales is so much about feature dumping, right? It's about everything that you have and everything that you can do and the space and the rooms, and they're never really concerned with why their guests are coming. You know, what is it that this particular guest is interested in? You're so busy telling me about these, you know, beautiful meeting spaces that you have and this and that, but what if they don't care? What if they really just want nice sleeping rooms?
That's right.
And they want to make sure that their guests are accommodated properly. And what if you're pushing, you know, these banquets and this food and, oh, our chef is this and that, and they're like, actually, we kind of want to try out the local cuisine. Like, that's why we're coming to your city, because it's a foodie location or whatever. And so I think there's just a big miss in doing the due diligence and really understanding your customers' needs before feature dumping. And that's something that software sales absolutely teaches, is that you got to ask great questions. You have to understand your buyer's needs before you start selling. And so when I think in software sales, that's like sales 101. When I think of hospitality sales, it's like, no, we've got this great property and we've got these great rooms and we did a renovation and blah, blah, blah. It's just a very different thought process. And obviously it's a different product. I understand that as well. But when you come from it, on one hand of, you know, solving a problem, you want to be the answer to your customers' problems in software sales, as opposed to in hotels, you're a commodity, I guess, you know. And so it's how do you create that need versus that want, or you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you make that a pill instead of a vitamin, or I don't know, whatever that saying is, you know?
Right.
A lot of little anecdotes, but the point is that and like I said, I was never taught. You know, I got my first sales job and it was like, here's a phone, here's a computer, and call people, figure it out, get your clients. No training, no tech stack, no nothing. I mean, it was just have at it. So.
Wow. Yeah. So what you hit on a really good point right there. I often found a lot of times hotel sales are always the one doing the talking, and software sales, very, very diligent about asking questions and doing most of the listening, right? Because like you hit it right on the head. Feature dumping, i.e. going over things that don't resonate with your prospect, it can even be counterproductive, because if you're adding things to that they may not like or even think. So it's and I know it's difficult, especially in sales, because we always think that we're on a timer and we want to get as much of our benefits in as possible, when the person that's actually on the other side of the table is the one that is really has a problem and is looking for somebody to help solve that for them.
Yeah. And I think, you know, another like I said, I was preparing for this call and just kind of thinking back in my head of all of the things that have been so different in my experience. And the other thing is also about follow-up. You know, in hotels, I would get either a list, I would go through the CRM, or I would literally get a list, or I would sometimes be handed the yellow pages and told. And nowadays, if you're born, you know, after 1995, you probably don't know what that is, but there is a book. It was yellow with business names and numbers in it. And, you know, you would send out emails that no one helped you craft, that you were just on the fly. You know, looking back on it, I'm like, God, I would love to read what I was sending, because the strategy is so different now, like compare and contrast, like people not replying because they didn't need me, or people not replying because of the content of what I was sending. But aside from that, assuming that my first outreach was incredible, impeccable, perfect, sometimes it takes more than one touch. And there was absolutely no training, no discussion, no nothing about follow-up. It was you send an email or you make a cold call and you leave a voicemail, and maybe they call back, maybe they write back, and maybe they don't. Now, looking at SaaS sales, it's cadences, and it's, okay, how many touches does it take for someone to reply? If they reply back and say no, that's okay, that's great. Put a note in your calendar, your CRM, to call them or email them again. And it's just that constant touch point to turn someone into a customer, instead of that spray and pray and just hope that someone writes you back. I have seen many a hospitality CRM. I can tell you that a lot of those entries are probably fake. It is, I needed to make 50 calls and I literally went in the yellow book and it was like, well, I don't know. And then your note said, did not answer, left a voicemail. It's super messy. And so I haven't, I haven't been in hospitality sales in years, right? So sure. I can't speak to what it's like now, but back then I know for sure that's what was happening. So it's a long story to get to, just different methodologies and strategies. And I think, what it also boils down to is process. And SaaS sales is super process driven. Hospitality sales, in my experience, is not. It is figure it out, make it happen, hit your goal, and everyone will leave you alone.
Right. Right. Yeah, you hit a really good point on the follow-up, the lack of follow-up. And oftentimes I think the salespeople that we have worked on is that our product, our what we're trying to sell is so awesome. How could anybody possibly resist what we have to sell? The fact is that oftentimes it's a very, very long sales cycle. It's not an impulse buy. It's not like we're buying the new Apple iPhone. It takes time for somebody to get to know, build that relationship. 95% of our prospects that we want to reach out to aren't ready to buy what we have to sell. And if we're not touching them with and making ourselves more valuable to them and part of that conversation and building that relationship, the moment that they do have something that we could sell them, they forgot about us. So that cadence that you had mentioned is so incredibly important and void of any sales. And ironically, we're doing some of that for our hotel sales now with incredible success. Just being part of that conversation, soft touch, being there, being the trusted advisor and not that slimy salesperson, because they can smell a sales pitch a mile away.
Well, and the other thing too is hotels in particular receive a ton of RFPs, tons of RFPs, and some it was like we would know from the company it came from that it was garbage, and then others were really good and really hot. Not once was I ever coached to call that meeting planner and ask what was important to that client. Instead, it was, all right, I got to get on my computer. I got to put that RFP together, and I would talk to revenue and figure out the best rate that I could offer. And it was never about the client. It was about what we could offer because of what we had. And again, the features. And I think that's a big miss because if you, number one, obviously it's not the direct client, right? It's the broker generally for the RFPs, but building the relationship with that broker, imagine what that could have done if you're the one presenting to the clients. Oh my God, Alexis at Hilton, she's amazing. Their rooms are beautiful. I know this is a really good rate. I've seen what she's put out. Like, this is awesome. You should really consider this one. As opposed to, okay, here's 10 properties, pick one you want.
Right. Because there's certainly a level of trust there, right? They know that you're going to be able to fulfill the promise of providing. Obviously, I'm assuming you're talking about a group or a meeting.
Yep.
There's a level of trust there, and if they don't know who this person is, you say you're a meeting planner for Qualcomm, and you're putting your reputation on line to have an event hosted at a venue. You don't know this person, and the thing, I can imagine the level of trust it requires.
Well, the interesting thing is that in software sales, you are coached the exact opposite. And anything until you understand your buyer's needs. So I call you and you say, I'm really busy. Can you just send me a proposal? Well, Cory, I would love to know exactly what you need to see in that proposal. What is it that you're looking for? What is it that you're shopping for? How am I helping you? I need to understand how I can best serve you in order to put together a proposal that's going to make sense for us to do business together. Very different than me being like, oh yeah, sure, I'll send it over.
Right.
You're shooting in the dark.
Totally.
I have no idea what you are looking for, shopping for, price point. I mean, all of that stuff.
Absolutely. Now, this is an interesting follow-up question. Did you know that while you're in hospitality, or did you only learn that when you moved on to another industry?
I learned that when I moved on.
Wow.
I can't tell you how many proposals I sent to people who just wanted to get me off the phone.
Oh, God. Okay.
Truly.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Wow. That's a huge one. Absolutely. So, so knowing that and knowing you touched on some great points there. So what are some of the best strategies right now for, say, somebody that is always, they've only known hotel sales. They're sitting there. Times are so great right now, right? Everybody's is flooded with those influx of RFPs and inbound inquiries. We see them. Yep. But it may not always be that way, right? So when the spigot turns off, things slow down. Now what? Now we got to be a little bit more proactive. So Lexa, what would you say?
So I think I'm going to use a tech term. I think you need to understand your ICP. and that's your ideal customer profile.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand who you're selling to, why you're selling to them, and what it is they're generally looking for. So what I always try to think of is, think of your like slam dunk customers. It was like so easy to sell to them. You didn't even have to sell. They just really liked what you had to offer. You were serving them. You were checking all their boxes without even trying. What does that look like? Who do you want to buy from you? And start to put a persona together. So if you are in business travel, who are you selling to? What are the titles of the people that you are selling to, right? How big are the companies that they're in? Are they in massive enterprise companies? Or are they in little baby startups? Like, what is it? What is your target persona around that? Then you can make lead lists. You can go on LinkedIn. You can see who these people are. If it's travel managers, for example, okay, great. I'm going to go on LinkedIn and I'm going to search travel managers and I'm going to start searching companies. Or I'm going to go on LinkedIn Sales Navigator and I'm going to search travel managers and I'm going to pull up in the United States in, companies of X size, whatever. Obviously, tools can be your friend. And I think that this is where hotel sales really falls short, is giving their salespeople the tools that they need to be most successful, right? They might now. When I was there, they did not. I can tell you with certainty. So like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, nope. Zoom Info, nope. The CRM was always either Delphi or proprietary.
It still is Delphi.
And so that's that. And any outbound emails are going straight from your Outlook, because I always had Outlook. We never used Mac products.
Right.
So
right.
You are creating your own sequences. Now, I understand that Delphi now integrates with Salesforce. So God willing, some of these people have automated emails. But if you don't, your team could really use that. So just some things to think about as far as tech stack, but you need to come up with a plan of like, who are you going to reach out to? How are you going to reach out to them? What are you going to say? And you need to make it personal, because the one thing I will say about hospitality sales is relationships are so important. And so I would hope that with all of this information that I'm sharing, like in no way am I saying lose that, because it is such a great thing that I loved about hospitality sales, is you really do build relationships with these travel buyers or with, the decision makers of these companies. So that's that aside. But I think that the research piece is where you can win big, is to really be tailored in who you're targeting. I was calling companies like the front desk and being like, hi, can I speak to, whoever? And they're like, I don't know, they're not here anymore, or whatever. Why was I not targeting my campaigns? I didn't know you were supposed to. That's why.
Right.
So I just think there needs to be some knowledge, some general knowledge of like, how do you do this? Here's a prescriptive method of like how you do outreach. Here's how you figure out your ICP. And the ICP discussion should really be a team discussion. And everyone, because there's, obviously different sales managers with different segments within hotels, but that should be a group discussion. And then it should be broken apart into like, okay, Susie's going to go call all these people. Mary's going to call these people. Bob's going to call these people. But in general, here's like our strategy as a team. And I share this because I never had that. And I wish that my leadership had done stuff like that. I never got that. So I think there's a component to leadership training that could be innovative as well.
Sure.
But like I said, there's so many people who have been in hospitality for 30 years and they just keep doing it the way they've always done it. And there's not that innovation. There's not that influx of new information, because the people coming in are learning from the people who have been doing it forever. So it just continues to cycle. There's not that fresh idea factory coming in, and that's where it's hurting.
Yeah. Do you think also, is it the whole concept of, hey, we've always done it this way? Is it because there hasn't been a need to? It's been pretty good for 10 years. And I'm not exactly sure when you left the industry, but what you described, there are some great salespeople out there.
Did not give us the tools that would have truly made them successful. We were logging email cadence touches on an Excel sheet.
Right.
They were cutting and pasting emails into their email, and there were mistakes. And it was just a nightmare. They pushed through. God bless them for not being like, what is this garbage? But when I left and I saw what modern resources and tech stack was out there, I literally called my old boss and I said, did you know that there was a system that could do this? And he's like, oh yeah. And I said, why were we not using it? Think of the hours my team could have saved and the results that they could have seen had they had the tools that they needed in order to be most successful. Well, it wasn't in the budget. Wow. Okay. Guess what? They could have made you a lot more money.
That's right.
Had you invested in their success.
That's right.
And I think that that's what I mean when it's like, you can be wonderful on the phones and engaging and really connect with your customers. But ultimately, you need the tools. You know, are you going to dig a hole with a shovel, or are you going to use a backhoe? What's going to work for you?
Exactly. So, and you hit it right on the head, by the way. What is it going to take for them to realize what they're doing? And to be perfectly candid with you, we are doing what you just described for some of our hotel clients with automation. It's working great, but the problem is the legacy systems don't integrate with Sharp. We use SharpSpring, which is a HubSpot alternative.
Okay.
Works beautifully. And because of budgets, hotel industry can't afford HubSpot. And it's way overkill for what it needs. There's tons of products out there, but none of them connect with the legacy systems in hospitality, except for Infor, which we've done an integration with, and I believe Event Temple. Every other one, they're locked down. You can't, and they have no advanced marketing or sales cadence at all whatsoever. So
yeah, I mean, Salesforce and Delphi do have an integration, and I know that because I was trained on it. That was at the last hotel that I was in. That was like the most modern thing that we had seen, right?
Right. But it still looks like Delphi. It doesn't have a tradition. It doesn't have a pipeline. Like I'm like, Salesforce, this is great. We open it up and I'm looking at this going, welcome to 1993.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. You know, I am a huge HubSpot fan. I've used it in my last 2 roles. And I really love that it is a seamless flux between sales and marketing. Yep. That's why and it's so easy. It's very intuitive. Like it's super easy for teams to use. But that's another issue that I have with hospitality sales is, in general, their marketing teams sit way over in headquarters in wherever they are. And if you need a flyer, you know, you're submitting requests and it takes a week and you got to roll it out and it's got to be approved. And it's not very nimble, right? And I think that that's challenging when you are trying to plan and really, I'm trying to think of the word I'm thinking of right now, but implement, I guess. You know, it's like you want to be quick. You don't want to have to deal with all of that when your team is capable, right? Like, there's branding stuff that should be approved and blah, blah, blah. But like realistically speaking, if your team has an idea, it should not take an act of God to get it to happen. So, you know, and then you get into the difference between what is marketing email versus what is a sales email. Are you sending sales emails? Are you sending marketing emails? What does that look like? That's a very techie thing. Hotels, you know, they don't talk about that. They're different.
Yep, totally.
So, you know,
just that whole concept. And we're doing some cold outreach for some of our properties right now. And I said, you can't mention, there can't be a hint of sales in it at all. No sales at all. Zero. Or we're going to get hit with spam. We're going to get hit with unsubscribes. Like these people don't know who you are. We're wearing them down, right? It's like, this is the reason why. Put yourself in their position. And people were sending you these types of emails. What would you think? You would be annoyed. You would hit unsubscribe. How dare they? They don't know who I am. So I think an eye-opening moment is trying to get people to realize, you being on the receiving end of these things. And we're getting some aha moments there. But you're right. There's a time and a place, cold, warm. When you get down to the sales process, yes, you can be a little bit more proactive, but you have to you need some small talk. You need the relationship a little bit more. You got to build a little bit more trust. Let's talk about what your needs are then. Just like you would do when you walk into an in-person networking event at MPI. You wouldn't walk up and say, let me sell you my stuff. You start with small talk.
Yeah.
Same way, right? Offline, online.
It's, you know, so funny. I thought of that too, about all of the business cards that I had and going to these events, and I was laughing in my head literally this morning and just thinking, it was like 90% hotel salespeople just talking to each other.
Totally.
Buyers, right? Like we were all just, hey,
Yeah.
oh yeah, cool, that's cool. You like it? Yeah, okay, cool. And we built great relationships with each other, industry wise, of having peers. They were not actual buyers. It was like, and then the one person that was a buyer would have like a swarm of hotel people around them of like, here's my card, talk to me, where, all that stuff. So it's just funny, tech conferences are a lot different. I've been to a couple, and it's a lot more like you said, of just like, we're not even going to sell, we're going to talk.
Totally. Exactly. No sales. Build a relationship first.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're selling a widget and it's price oriented, you want to sell a lot of them and it's going to change your world. There's a time and a place, but when our ticket items are $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 and they're long sales cycles, you can't ask for the hand in marriage without the date.
Yeah. Yep.
This has been an awesome conversation, by the way. And so before I break with you, I wanted to ask you, what is some Alexis Scott secret sauce? Doesn't have to do it with anything about your profession, life lessons, cool tricks, magic, whatever you got to share with us would be fantastic.
I think my secret sauce is not being afraid to put myself out there. We talked about LinkedIn a little bit earlier, and I tell my story. And I have done that my entire life in different capacities. And I've never been afraid to be who I am. And I think that that's my secret sauce, and why people, like you were saying, interact with me and connect with me and share with me, because I am who I am, and take it or leave it. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be real candid with you. But I'm also going to help you. And so I find tremendous joy in helping others. It has been a huge component within my career, particularly how I ended up in my last role at Aspireship. I got laid off in 2020 from that property management company, the patient rental company. I spent 6 months looking for work. And what I found was a tremendous sense of joy in helping others.
Nice.
And find work, and a lot of that was through LinkedIn. It was through connecting with people and chatting with people and Zooming with people and helping connect them to that next opportunity. And that led me to a role where I was helping people start careers in software sales. Very passionate about that still. I still have Zooms and calls and whatever with, all kinds of people who reach out to me and ask for advice and guidance. But what I have found is when you consistently help others with no expectation, they will help you back.
Oh my gosh.
Right now I am in a time of need, right? Like I am looking for work, and it's not fun and it's not easy. And the market right now is ridiculous. And what I'm trying, it's a mess, but I have people reaching out to me who maybe I spoke to last year, maybe I spoke to 6 months ago, and all they have to say is, tell me how I can help you.
That's beautiful.
I want to know, what can I do? So it's pretty amazing, to see people rally around you. And I think, like I said, it just stems from being myself and helping others wherever I can. And what goes around comes around. And that's my advice to people is think of others. Always be thinking of how you can help others, and it will come back to you a tenfold, I promise.
Totally. Absolutely. That's great advice. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, hey, I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us here on the Fridays. I really enjoyed the conversation. Where can people learn a little bit more about you and how they can find you? Can you share a little bit about that?
The biggest place is LinkedIn. So I am on LinkedIn just like you, tremendously all day, every day. I'm trying to connect with people, but my name on there is Alexis Scott. If you go to my handle, it's linkedin.com/in/Alexis J Scott. That's probably the best place to find me. Connect with me, follow me, whatever it is you want to do. I talk about life, children, sales, hiring, all my crazy experiences as I'm going through the job process of interviews and shitty hiring managers. And I talk about it. So it's where you'll find the real, but I do love connecting with people. So I hope that if anyone is listening and, is curious about hospitality sales and how to be better, or if you've thought about software sales and are curious, please message me. I am happy to answer any questions you might have. It is a tough transition, but it can be done. And I have proof of that. So it's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, hey, I'm going to definitely have you on again sometime soon. And in the meantime, best of luck in your search, and looking forward to our next conversation. Have a great Labor Day weekend.
Thank you so much, Cory. You as well.
Thanks so much.